In Overwatch 2, recently people have been having a hard time with a new character introduced into the meta by the name of Bastion. A big reason why he is such a high pick rate is because of the fact that he is just re-released for the game because of him being banned from the game due to a glitch, making a lot of players want to play him and causing a lot of people to try to find a counter for him. Today I will be showing you counters that you can pick to play against Bastion. It's not as hard as you think it is. Bastion has been a problem child for new players for a long time. I don't mean to be singling people out, but I will say that most of the time people that have problems with Bastions are newer players, but his kit was changed from Overwatch 1 to Overwatch 2, so even veteran players have a problem against Bastion nowadays due to his paradigm being shifted a tiny bit. But it really has a lot of similar counters that it did back in Overwatch 1, so if you're Overwatch 1 veteran, you shouldn't have any problems understanding these tips. One key thing that you need to understand is that Bastion doesn't have an amazing DPS unless you're in turret mode. Once you go into turret mode, he has the most DPS out of any other character, making him during those 10 to 8 seconds essentially the best character in the entire game, but there's easy ways to counter that. But of course, before we get into the meat and potatoes of the video, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and follow me on Twitch on the top right. You have no idea how much helps me out, and let's get into the video.
Legendary? Whoa! No way, dude!
So the big problem that people have with Bastion is his turret mode. But let's talk about when he's out of his turret mode first. Now, when he's out of his turret mode, he has no recoil and essentially has really good hit scan abilities, able to deal lots and lots of damage because he essentially has 100% accuracy. But because of his kit, he doesn't have any escape plans, so naturally you can play a character that has high mobility and is able to chase you down. The counter Bastion's right off the bat right there. So when he's out of his turret mode, you can get up close and personal. Essentially, a big thing you got to do is understand his burst windows. During those few seconds of turret mode, once again, as I said before, he's the highest damaging character in the entire game, so you kind of have to play around that. When he's out of that mode, aka his recon mode, that's when you want a gun for him. You can essentially do this with any character, considering he's not a super good character when he's out of his turret mode. It's very easy to kill him, in my honest opinion. He's a decently big hitbox for his critical area, and the only thing for his saving grace is the potential burst damage from his tactical grenade, which granted is good. It's not as powerful as the rest of his kit, so you can easily clear him. Now let's actually talk about the thing that people have a problem with most with Bastion, which is his turret mode. His turret mode has tons and tons of damage and can catch you off surprise, especially if you're a console player. If you're a console player, sometimes it takes a few seconds to turn around, so if he flanks you, activates a turret, and starts gunning you, you barely have enough time to really do anything about it, or you're dead. So a big thing that you want to do when playing against Bastion is kind of trying to stay behind your tank, allow your tank to take the most amount of damage because the tank should be taking the most amount of hits. Obviously, Bastion can clear tanks pretty easily, but if you're in a group setting and Bastion tries to flank you, most of the time your team can coordinate enough to kill them very easily. But let's talk about actual hard counters you can do to play against Bastion, like what characters you can pick. Let's actually talk about the DPS first, and as I said before, high mobility is Bastion's enemy. If you are a high mobile character, you can easily kill Bastion or even trick him up to make his turret mode basically useless. Because of that, you can obviously pick Tracer or Genji. These are high mobile characters that can really easily pick off Bastion. With Tracer, you can blink around his bullets pretty easily and disorient the player. With Genji, he has the highest counter, as Overwatch 1 players know, with his deflectability. If you're deflecting against a Bastion and he's spraying bullets at you, he's gonna die quicker than... I'm not sure how to say that in a witty way, but he's basically gonna die super quick. Next, let's move on to tanks. Now, Sigma, D.Va, and Roadhog are all really good tanks to play against Bastion because they all have abilities that directly counter the turret mode. If you're Roadhog and you hook him out of his turret mode, well, he's going to be vulnerable and you can of course deal a lot of damage, easily taking him out of the fight. Bastion's big problem when he is in turret mode is that he's 40% slower, which means he's a lot easier to actually get hooks on. So that is a key thing you can remember when playing Roadhog or any character that has to line up the sights for a certain ability. If Bastion's in his turret mode, he's going to be slow, so that's your chance to hit your key abilities, which we'll talk about more when we go to support characters, and you probably already know what I'm talking about. But next is Sigma and D.Va. Now, Sigma and D.Va both have abilities that essentially absorb projectiles and thus essentially make Bastion hard countered with his turret mode. If he's not shooting, he's still gonna get out of his turret mode no matter what, so it's really just stalling the clock with those two characters. Sigma might be a little bit better than D.Va on this, because when you absorb those bullets, you're going to get a huge amount of HP back, thus allowing you to easily and confidently 1v1, or even just shift the dynamic in the fight to your favor, where your healer doesn't need to heal you anymore and thus can support other characters on your team during those few seconds while you have the shields at least. Now we move on to supports. Now, as I said before, Bastion is a slow character when he's in his turret mode, so you can really take advantage of this when you're playing Ana and apply a sleep dart very easily. When you put the sleep dart on him, he can't really do much about it and his turret mode will run out. If you're playing Zenyatta, you can always have a Discord orb on the valuable target that you think needs to be killed, in which case will be Bastion if you feel like he's an important character to take down. In this scenario, we want to take down Bastion, so discording the Bastion allows him to take that extra little bit of damage, making him die quicker and thus not a problem for your team. And then Baptiste has Immortality Field. Immortality Field is a very obvious choice. You can't really die when you're in Immortality Field, which means Bastion can't really kill you. Bastion's all about doing tons and tons of burst damage in that turret mode, so if you can essentially mitigate and negate his burst damage, you're golden. So key takeaways from this with Bastion is that he's slow during his turret mode. Take advantage of that. When he's out of his turret mode, you want to gun for him. Otherwise, try to hit your key CCs on him while he's slowed and try to stay in a team. If your entire team is gunning down Bastion, most of the time you won't have a problem with him at all, or if you pick one of these characters. I did give you a pick for every single role, so tank, healer, and DPS, so hopefully this helps you no matter what type of character you like to play. And as always, a big shout out to the members who make these videos possible. We got Clairvoyance, Rick and Glacius, Cameron, and Wishkeeper. These are the people who support me as little as $5 a month, and you can also support me as little as $5 a month on Patreon and YouTube in the comments or description down below. And as always, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and I hope y'all have a great day. Bye-bye.
And the last shall be first to immerse in a pass out heat, facing him out with a moxie melt till he woke up drowning in tchotchke hell. War in a cave with a torch on the wall, then a window arrangement of porcelain dolls.